Should we get started? Awesome. Thank you so much for making it. Welcome to day 2 of Google Cloud Next 2026. We are here to talk about built-in defense and the next evolution of Security Command Center for the AI and agentic era. My name is Abhishek Hemrajani. I'm a Senior Director of Product at Google Cloud. My team and I are responsible for Google Cloud Identity and Access Management, the Security and Compliance Platform, Security Command Center, Model Armor, and our fraud defense product, Recapture. I'm going to be joined on stage shortly by Nav Jagpal. Nav is a Google veteran and also the principal engineer and tech lead on Security Command Center. So here's how we're going to spend the next 40 or 45 minutes. We're going to start off by talking about why built-in platform security is how SCC is going to evolve and what we really feel about preemptive platform-native security. We'll then start talking about how we're thinking about security for developers, security for AI and agents, and security for Google Cloud at large. Next is Nav on stage, and he's going to walk us through a whole bunch of demos and all the cool features that we are announcing this week at Next, previews and GA. So he's going to take us through that massive announcement reel. And then I'm going to be back on stage with recommendations for some related sessions, and we'll recap everything, and hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A. With that, let's get started, and let's talk about why built-in platform security matters more than ever before. I'm going to start off by saying, how many of you are security practitioners in this room? Maybe a quick show of hands. Everybody. That's why you're here and not going to the developer keynote. Thank you so much for being here. But your developers at the developer keynote, they call us security tax, yeah? And they oftentimes call security a theater. And it hurts when you hear about it, right? Because we invest in products and we invest in processes to help them achieve the right outcome. But the reality is the security theater is no longer scaling. And it's not scaling because we are still not able to deliver the cybersecurity outcomes that really matter to the business. And with AI and agents, that's becoming even more problematic. Ideally, what you want is for security to shift left. And again, that's a term that we've used so many times over the last 2 years, but I don't know how many of us have actually shifted security left. I'll say something further. We don't need to shift it left. We actually need to shift security down. You shift security down so that your developer can focus on building the most powerful and innovative AI and agentic apps without worrying about the foundation being secure or compliant. And you shift down because the platform teams can focus on building that secure foundation, making sure that the right primitives for security and compliance are in the platform so that the developer can come and do what the developer does best, code and actually build the application. That's shifting security down. If you were to think about how it works today, a lot of teams spend a lot of time figuring out how to get quality attributes in play within the platform while you're trying to build the app. And feature productivity is actually lower. What you want is the right side of that graph. You want feature productivity to be high and the quality attributes to be enforced by the platform itself. And that's when you have a secure and compliant foundation to build innovative and powerful applications and AI and agents on top of. And this is where preemptive security becomes very, very important. Today, security is very reactive. It's reactive because we prioritize systems for recovery and root cause. In the real world, the analogy would be if you have first responders responding to an actual incident in a city, that's called being reactive to an incident. A proactive approach to security would be when you're trying to identify and mitigate risk early on before it actually becomes an incident. Again, in the real world, think of it as surveillance cameras, patrol vehicles, looking out for any issues before they actually become incidents. Now, what you really want is preemptive security, where security is part of the design of the fabric itself, so that you can focus on building applications without thinking about security as an afterthought. In the real world, that would be planning cities the right way, thinking about urban planning and city codes so that citizens have a better experience when they live in that city. So if you take that real-world analogy and bring it to security, that's where we want to get security to. You want your developers to have a great experience with the platform without thinking of security as tax or as theater. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to call it preemptive platform-native security, and that's what Security Command Center delivers. You want security to be based on cloud constructs. You want it to be based on identity and access management and policy systems natively available in the platform because that allows you to get to best security outcomes. You want embedded detections and specialized technology that can give you insights across the entire cloud deployment, and you can correlate them better for the real thing that needs to be paid attention to. And finally, when you're platform native, that also means no daemons, no probes, no appliances, no components to install. Dramatically brings down the TCO and dramatically simplifies onboarding and takes away complexity. That's the value of preemptive platform native security, and that's the journey that we are on as we evolve Security Command Center. So the way we think about it is your foundation for AI and cloud workloads when it comes to security starts with the Google Cloud Platform itself. Our platform is engineered with a security mindset. Our services and product portfolios deliver security at a higher level of assurance than any other cloud provider does. Now, when you have that secure foundation, we take care of our responsibility from a platform, product, and a services point of view. And then we built in Security Command Center to make it easy for you to monitor and secure your infrastructure and your applications. So SCC is built directly into Google Cloud's infrastructure and offers you unmatched visibility. SCC uses the same technology that Google uses to protect itself. And more importantly, over the years, SCC has been trusted by thousands of customers with the most complex cloud deployments, so we know it works at scale and we know it works at complexity. I'm very happy to announce this week the GA of a new SCC standard. We are calling it SCC Standard 2.0. SCC Standard 2.0 is available out of the box, is default enabled, and it just works. More importantly, it's free. It provides you a set of baseline security for your AI and cloud workloads. And when you're ready for the full SCC Premium, you now each have a 30-day free trial, which is as easy as a click to enable across your entire organization or a project of your choice. So SCC Standard 2.0 is now GA, enabled by default, and SCC Premium 30-day trial is a one-click upgrade that you can take out on any org or any project. More importantly, we are also shifting SCC to provide you in-context security across your primary cloud surfaces. So in GCE or GKE, in Database Center or Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform, or even in Cloud Hub, you now have security and compliance experiences powered by SCC that are enabled by default, and you can get started with paying attention to the security issues that you should be remediating. Now, this is how we think about SCC. The set of capabilities that we invest in align to these 6 different pillars. We want to make sure that at the foundation of these pillars, everything in the platform should be context and application aware. Since SCC is built into the platform, we have more context than anybody else can. We also have a deeper understanding of how infrastructure and data relate to build a business application that really matters to the end customer. Now, when you think about this secure foundation, on top of it are 6 different pillars that give you the set of capabilities that you need from a security point of view. The first is, how can we help you identify all of your Google Cloud assets that need to be protected? Once you've identified all of your assets that need to be protected, you need to make sure that you're preventing any kind of misconfigs or any kind of vulnerabilities on those assets. So that's the prevent part of our experience. Even after you have your assets discovered and misconfigs prevented, you may still have any kind of active threats in your environment, and that's where detect comes into play and helps you detect AI-targeted threats or general threats in your environment. We also want you to have the ability to correlate all signals across the platform to find known and obvious risks, but also leverage capabilities to find the unknown risk that you may not even be aware about. You also now need to start more than ever before worrying about data, because data gets used in AI and agentic workflows, and you don't really know how data is secured and what posture you're looking at. So discovering and protecting your data across your cloud environment is a very important capability, and you'll hear more about the DSPM capability in SCC, which is now generally available. And then finally, what's the goal? The goal is that the business feels confident that you're secure and you're compliant, and you can provide a verifiable audit report. And that's where the monitoring experience or the compliance manager and audit experience comes into play. Let's go through each of these in a little bit more detail. I'll call out a few features that make sense in each of these pillars, starting with identifying all of your cloud and AI assets. With SCC, you get a real-time inventory of all of your Google Cloud assets, IAM policies. You also get to automatically discover all of your AI assets, so data, models, MCP servers, tools. That's a very comprehensive discovery that you get within the AI security experience of Security Command Center. Coming very soon, you'll also get shadow discovery for AI out of the box in SCC. You can then start understanding the relationship between your various cloud and AI assets. We also help you discover ephemeral workloads on GKE and Cloud Run and provide you near real-time updates because of being built into the platform. So that's identify. Once I've identified all of my assets, I can start thinking about preventing any issues before they happen, so preemptive prevention of issues. And you make that possible by ensuring that you leverage the multiple connectors that are already built into SCC. So you can leverage more than 175 cloud detectors that are built into the platform. You can also identify issues related to your identity and remove excessive permissions and take care of that security threat. Prevention also comes to life with continuous compliance. So continuous compliance in SCC will periodically tell you how the system is responding based on a timeline and what change is degrading your compliance posture or improving your compliance posture. You also get proactive visibility into all vulnerabilities, and we correlate it with Mandiant CVE information to give you a more deeper sense of what CVEs you're looking at in your environment and how you should be prioritizing the mitigation against them. Then comes detect, because even after prevention and having a good sense of all of your assets, you may still need to respond to active threats in your environment. And SCC detects a whole bunch of AI and cloud threats directly out of the box. Some include crypto mining, malware detection, privilege escalation, evasive techniques. All of those capabilities are just directly available out of the box and comprehensively cover a whole bunch of infra and data assets in Google Cloud. Now, finding risk can be finding a risk that is somewhat known or finding a risk that may be not known at all. Let me actually show you that in a visual. So for example, with our new security graph, I can correlate signals across the SDLC. I can correlate signals across the app platform, observability, security, and really try to get a sense of, I know that there is a risk, but truly what's the blast radius and how does it impact my environment? So we call that understanding the known risk a little better. But you also want to understand the unknown risk. And that's where red teaming and attack path simulation come about. They help you virtually red team your entire environment and discover things that you may have not even thought about before. And this operates at scale. It works against all of your high-valued assets and your applications. So that's finding known and unknown risks with Security Command Center. I mentioned data. Data is more important than ever before. You really need to worry about how data moves across systems, what's the lineage of data, and what's really happening in terms of how AI models are leveraging that data. Now, when you think about how we help you discover and classify all of your sensitive data, we also give you the ability to manage data posture, the right encryption policies, the right retention policies built in. We also provide you the ability to automatically monitor any kind of drift from this posture state with the DSPM product. So that's discovering and protecting all of your sensitive data. Some really cool visualizations that you get with data security in Security Command Center. You get a good sense of where is your data located. Is data being persisted in multiple copies? Is data crossing geo-boundaries unintentionally? It's a great way to get a bird's eye view of, is your data posture really what you thought it is going to be or not? So that's the data security posture management capability directly built into SCC. And finally, with monitoring, you're able to use Compliance Manager and Audit Manager to enforce compliance, monitor and report adherence, and then, of course, generate evidence for very painful audits that we all have to respond to on a regular basis. So that's SCC, everything from find to monitoring, and the set of capabilities that we are building each align to all of those pillars. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to talk about three specific things. I'm going to talk about how we are thinking about security for developers. Then I'm going to talk about how we're thinking about security for AI and agents. And then finally, how we're thinking about security for Google Cloud at large. Let's start with developers who are at the keynote. What we want to do is we want to make sure that security is embedded at design time and monitoring is application aware. So on day zero, an example of that would be if you're using something like Application Design Center to build out your application template and deploy your application, you should be able to run an SCC preventive detection against that would-be application to figure out what set of issues can be remediated at design time before this application even gets created in the cloud environment. You can also remediate the issues with Gemini. So that's one example of day 0 embedding security at design time. Now, on day N, why should you have to monitor your infrastructure and your data? You should monitor your applications. You should pay attention to things that absolutely matter, and that's where app-centric security in Security Command Center comes into play. So I'm very happy to announce this week a preview of Secure by Design. This is one of the first Secure by Design scenarios for preemptive security that we are building with SCC. This brings together Application Development Center, App Hub, and Security Command Center. It gives you a preemptive security assessment right during the application design workflow, and also helps you trace back the lineage from a finding into the actual line of code that resulted in that configuration issue or that vulnerability, so that you can remediate it even before you deploy the application. Also in GA is Application-Centric Security Command Center. So previously, when SCC worked at an infrastructure level, we gave you a prioritized list of things to worry about, but it was still infra-centric. Now we basically give you all of SCC's visualizations across vulnerabilities, AI, data, threats, all of them in the context of the applications that matter. We also give you app-aware nodes in attack path simulation. So in addition to looking at your high-valued assets, you can also look at your important applications directly in attack path simulation. Overall, you get improved traceability and correlation on your infrastructure and data assets. Now, here's why application-centric SCC is very important. If we have to really solve for that security theater, we need to be able to help prioritize business outcome. And the way you prioritize business outcome is you focus your efforts in remediating on the applications that matter the most. You help your users, end users within your organization, prioritize and visualize the blast radius on which applications and which resources must be remediated in the order of priority of the application and the order of severity of the issue itself. And then how do you enforce semantic understanding between the application design and the security configuration? Right now, they live in two different systems. We are bringing them together by bringing security into the design phase of the application itself. And this is what it looks like. So this is an ADC experience where I'm building out a very complex multi-tier application. But even before I deploy the application, I can preemptively run all of the detections that SCC would have ran on an ongoing basis to figure out if the configuration of this application and the configuration of the resources is eventually going to be compliant or not, or am I going to just be faced with a findings flood as soon as the application gets deployed. By the way, we've looked at data across all of our customers, and we strongly believe that performing diligence on a few controls across all of the cloud environments can dramatically reduce the kind of vulnerabilities that we all have to deal with on an ongoing basis. And that's the goal that we have. We want to make sure that we prevent you from deploying configurations that will lead to problematic issues at runtime. Let's talk about security for AI and agents. So if you were in my IAM session yesterday, I gave you a sneak peek on how we are building security for agent platform powered by Security Command Center. Now, this matters a lot right now because you want to ensure that while your infrastructure, we've always struggled to get it secure by design, we cannot take the same risk with agent runtimes and agent environments. We need to think about secure by design on day 0. We need to think about doing identity and permissions management right for agents on day 0. And that's why agent security posture is an important feature that's built into our AI security offering for the agent platform. You also need to be able to discover all of your AI and agent assets because you need a deep understanding on your tools and your MCP servers and the models and the data that's being leveraged. The org-wide inventory of your AI assets and also the inventory of shadow AI assets is very important for you to get a sense of what's really happening as users start experimenting with AI and agent. And finally, as agent pickup skills and agent packages get deployed, vulnerability and supply chain risk on AI and agents is a huge issue that we are all faced with right now, and that's why agent vulnerability scanning is a very important and requested capability. Very happy to announce the preview of built-in security for Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform. You may have seen this in some of the demos yesterday. You get out-of-the-box compliance controls, agentless discovery, so you don't need any agentry to detect your agents. Vulnerability scanning, threat detections, also toxic combinations based on security graphs, so you can prioritize the most important issues against your agent and AI deployments. This matters more than ever before, because if you think about humans, the reason we used to become insider threats in any organization was because of two things. Either we had malicious intent, or we were just massively pissed off, or if our accounts got taken over. Now, the reality with agents is agents don't need to be pissed off or have malicious intent or be taken over for them to do things that you don't want them to do. So your agents are the new insider threats, and we really need to think about them in that sense. And the way you think about that is, how do you profile the behavior of an agent? So just how you performed behavior analysis on users before with Yuba, how do you think about agent behavior analysis to detect any kind of anomalies when agents perform in manner that's undesirable or may result in an exfiltration issue for you? You also need to worry about the reputation of the agent or an agent-assisted fraud that may be spreading through your environment. And then you also need to protect every interaction path between the user and the agent and other agents or any kind of AI, generative AI systems. And that's where model armor comes into play. So zero trust and runtime defense for agents is a huge area for investment for us, both in the platform and in Security Command Center. And you'll hear various announcements this week on what we're doing with anomaly detection, fraud defense with reCAPTCHA, and model armor. Now, model armor is a very important capability. If you don't have model armor deployed, you should absolutely have model armor deployed. Please make it the first action that you take when you go back from Cloud Next. With model armor, you can watch out for harmful content, PII data, prompt injections, malicious files, unsafe URLs. Model armor encapsulates a whole bunch of security and safety detectors, including a content safety model, a sensitive data service, prompt safety models, and Google AV and safe browsing, and many other features coming soon. With model armors, you also get to protect inline any interactions. So interactions with Gemini Enterprise or interactions with Vertex, or also now in preview interactions with your GCP MCP servers or the agent platform itself, without making any change to the application code itself. So that's security for AI and agents. The primary announcement, Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform Security, built-in, powered by SCC, is now in preview. All right, finally, I want to quickly talk about how we're thinking about security across Google Cloud. We believe that security needs to be in context. It should not just be left to the security teams. Developers and platform teams need to come together to arrive at the right security outcomes. So you need to show security issues directly in the in-context experience. That means showing security experiences in GCE, GKE, Database Center, Cloud Hub, Agent Platform, and many more to come in the future. And that built-in security also empowers teams to not just design the right way, but also respond as one team, truly actuating the shared responsibility model that security needs to become if it doesn't have to be thought of as attacks or a theater. And this is what correlating security in Cloud Hub looks like. So this week, we are announcing the preview of a security and compliance experience directly in Cloud Hub. So you can actually correlate signals across observability, application runtime, reliability, and security to see really what's happening. And when you have issues that you want to remediate, we're also announcing in preview the Gemini-powered security remediation agent that allows you to remediate any finding and reduce the toil that it takes to actually address findings that we show you in the system. With that, I'm going to invite Nav back on the stage, and he's going to show us a whole bunch of demos on all the cool stuff that we've been building and announcing this week. Nav.
Thanks, Abhishek. You folks hear me? Yeah? Hey, so I've been at Google for close to 20 years, and I've been working in security, fraud, and abuse my entire career. I've worked on systems to protect users from malware and phishing and social engineering online, to account takeovers with your reCAPTCHA and reCAPTCHA Enterprise. For the last few years, I've had the privilege of serving as the Uber Tech Lead for Security Command Center. We're making significant investments to make GCP the most secure place to bring your workloads. With that, I'm going to walk through a bunch of examples to show exactly what Abhishek's been talking about. OK, we're going to start with security for developers. We're going to show that the examples that Abhishek talked about, where we have a platform engineer who's creating templates in the Application Design Center, setting the blueprints for what application developers will take and create applications. And we have a security persona who's like trying to create a secure landing zone in the environment. So let's walk through what that looks like. So first, Marcus, right? He's a compliance manager. He has a large inventory of frameworks, controls to create postures for goals for compliance and security outcomes. He can deploy these in projects and folders or across the entire organization. And Emily, she's a platform engineer, creating those templates in Application Design Center. There's a beautiful canvas, but underneath the hood is Terraform, which you can take to your own CI/CD pipelines. Right here in this experience, she can run assessments against those same frameworks that Marcus has already deployed in the environment. She can also opt into additional frameworks. And she's like, look, I want to have additional security outcomes or compliance outcomes for this application, or applications are derived from this template. She's opted into Security Essentials, or an opinionated framework for many controls on how applications should be configured in GCP. She's running these assessments and getting information right here, not hopping into a different console or a different experience. So it's really infusing security into the platform itself. She gets a sense of what's passing, what's failing, and she's able to remediate those things before this template gets published in the application catalog. She's looking at a particular framework. She sees a particular finding about IP addresses for a Cloud SQL instance. Now, there could be many different things here, right? And the question is, like, does she go back and forth and try to iterate this template to achieve this goal? Or we can leverage Gemini. It says fix all. The idea is that Gemini will iterate with the template and trying to bang off as many of those findings as possible to achieve like the best security and compliance outcome for people who use that template. Like Alex, he's an application developer. He took that template and he's about to deploy an instance of this application. There might be multiple instances of it. Pre-check deployment before this application gets deployed. Again, we're going to see the same issue here, and they can deploy it to the environment. All right, so the application template's been created. Application developer has taken that template and deployed it. Now we're back in the security console. Now what we're seeing here are a list of findings for the template itself that Emily had created, right? So you can see these in the design phase of the application, before any applications are being created. We can go back and say, hey, look, there's a problem here. If people use these applications or this template to create applications, we're going to end up with these violations. They don't actually exist in the environment yet, right? We're kind of shifting left and shifting down to try to prevent these things from occurring in the first place. Now the application has been deployed. And Abhishek mentioned app-centric views in SEC. So as you see in the top right-hand corner, there's an app picker. Marcus selected a particular application, and now the whole experience is catered towards that application. And these resources may be spread across multiple projects in the hierarchy. And that doesn't matter. We're looking at everything that relates to that application. A particular instance or issue that's been created by that security graph that we mentioned earlier, the different steps in the attack path, and if there's other applications that are involved, we'll see that metadata here as well. And now these findings are for the application that's been deployed. So you're seeing data about the application, the template, the runtime. The question is, how do you stitch that all together? And what fixes do you make? So let's take a look at one of these findings. So we scroll down a little bit. This is a really cool feature here. I'm just going to pause here for a second so we can all appreciate what's happening here. This shows us the entire lineage. How did this resource come to be? Where in the journey did this misconfiguration happen? You can see that it came from this application configuration that Marcus or Andrew had built earlier, and Emily, the template. So we can go back to the template itself, fix it there, assign a ticket to that person, and then fix the downstream thing, and all applications are built further. So that's security for developers. Now let's talk about security for AI and AI agents. We're starting with a global or organizational view of a rich inventory experience of all agents, wherever they're in Gemini Enterprise or agent platform, the models you have, what buckets they're stored in, MCP servers, data source endpoints, a large, rich inventory across the entire organization. You can dive deeper into those things and get more additional metadata. Let's take a look at that in a second here. All right, let's take a look at one of these agents and see what other metadata we can pull in this global organizational view of inventory. Look, there's a skill card. We can look at the skill card for this particular agent that's been deployed. Let's take a look at another one. And if there's any security misconfigurations or threat alerts, we'll see those here too, in context, right? There's some threat findings firing in this agent. Gemini Enterprise, we can take a look at one of these agents and see, or applications, and see how they're composed. This one has multiple agents inside of it. Now let's switch back to the AI protection dashboard here. Scroll down a little bit. We're going to see issues that are powered by the security graph and our virtual red teaming experience, targeting agents wherever they may be in your environment. Let's take a look at this one. This says there's a supply chain attack risk for this agent engine, which, if exploited, would result in many different high-valued resource or crown jewel assets being exposed. And you get to see all of them right here. This may involve lateral movement, privilege escalation. You can look at the detailed attack paths right here. This is a threat alert that's been firing on one of the agents, using agentless threat detection that's running side by side with your workloads without you having to modify, configure any sort of changes in your application. Scrolling down further, we have the agentless vulnerability scanning that we talked about earlier. Again, wherever your agents are running, and a rich set of controls and frameworks opinionated for your AI workloads running in Google Cloud. We scroll down a little bit more, we're going to see stats related to Model Armor. Again, Model Armor is installed across different agents across your environment, from Gemini Enterprise to your DIY agents to MCP servers. And here you're seeing stats about what's been detected: prompt injection, jailbreaking, sensitive data. All right, this is for the security persona, right? Or anybody who's interested in getting a rich organizational global view of AI. We want to meet developers where they are, right? So we're going to switch into a view that is built inside of the agent platform itself. Here, we're looking at just what's happening in Agent Engine for a particular project. You see a similar kind of data in a different view. We see risks, we see vulnerabilities, and we see compliance frameworks. We're bringing this security and compliance and risk data in context where developers are. They may not even be aware of a thing called Security Command Center when they're seeing this. I'm going to pause here real quick. How is everybody's skills at base 64 decoding right now? Yeah? I know Chris would know. Anybody knows what that is? All right, I'll give you a hint. It is making a network request to a light LLM command and control center. Pretty risky thing for an agent to be doing. Now, look, these are agent identities attached to those agents in this environment. What we've identified is that over the last 90 days or so, we've done this analysis on what permissions have been used. And to see, there's only been using like a handful of permissions, but it's entitled to a lot more. And very quickly, you can remediate that, right? Do permission resizing here. And then here are just the controls that are failing inside of that project alone, right? Instead of the global view across everywhere. All right, so we've got security for AI. We've covered security for developers. What's next? We have security for cloud. This is the Cloud Hub experience that Abhishek mentioned earlier. It provides a unified view across security, compliance, and visibility for DevOps and SRE teams to understand what's happening across applications and cloud resources. We're going to take a look at one of these things, which is a publicly accessible instance or VM with a software vulnerability. And if that thing were popped, bad things would happen. Here are the details of it, which resources it's applicable to. The question is, what do we do now? How do we fix this? Where do we go? Well, you see this like little sparkle here, remediate? That's going to invoke this new experience that's in preview right now, Gemini Cloud Assist, which is trying to help resolve this thing. Like, you get this detailed explanation of what is happening, what the implications are of that, how an attacker could exploit this vulnerability, and where could they go, what kind of lateral movements they could make. The agent's going to help the user right here in the console try to resolve this issue. It says, look, there's a couple different ways we could take this. The user says, let's try to cut off, let's look at the exposure angle of it instead of the identity angle. Provides a set of options. The user can decide which direction they want to go. Maybe this VM doesn't need to be exposed to the internet at all. Or it just doesn't need a public IP address, right? It just needs outbound instead of ingress. All right, so in this case, there's actually two options. I'm just going to pause to reflect on this, right? Look, we can G-Cloud this or send the commands right here. This is leveraging the end user credentials of the users logged in. So they need to have permission to be able to do this, and it's going to be on their behalf. And that's going to be very unlikely in a production environment, but be it in dev or in staging. Or they can ask for Terraform. The agent will spit out the Terraform that they can copy and paste into the CI/CD pipeline, so this can get fixed in a later push. But here, let's go for the G-Cloud to see what happens. It's mentioning the public IP, giving you a lot more metadata of what's really happening, and then it's going to spit out a command. Again, you can copy and paste this, run it yourself, or just click run, it'll do it right here. And that's what we're going to do. Boom, it's done. It's fixed. The agent even says, hey, look, there's actually a few other resources that have the similar problem. You want to go tackle those next? All right, and we envision a future in which this could be happening on a more autonomous basis, right? Trying to tackle more and more of these issues kind of in the background for you. It's a very exciting future. All right, so we saw 3 kind of experiences. Now I'm very excited about the investments that we've made over the last year and that we continue to make in making GCP the most secure place to bring your workloads, right? So I'm super excited to show you this revamped, risk-opinionated, risk-oriented experience that we built in SCC over the last year, powered by Security Graph, red teaming. It's also available in dark theme. How many people are using dark mode? Yeah? I was surprised. It's 50-50, and I think next year that means we'll have to switch this all to dark mode. It looks beautiful. All right, this is an in-context experience for GCE. And I just want to remind you that what Abhishek said earlier today is that we've launched a new standard tier. It's very rich. It includes agentless vulnerability scanning, right? So we'll be automatically scanning your VMs, you're running GKE clusters, and providing this data in context for those users, right? I encourage you, you can go do this today, right? Go into the console today and start looking at this data. Vulnerabilities, this beautiful heat map that shows enriched data from Mandiant about what's actually being exploited in the wild, so you know what to prioritize in patching. A similar experience in GKE. The dashboard does look different. It's catered towards the developers in GKE, using the language that they speak. New feature related to threat detection. We call it correlated threats. The idea is that there's multiple threats firing, or things we've observed on the same sort of resource or collection of resources during a period of time. Here we're seeing 3 different alerts. There's a recon tool that's been installed, a malicious binary that's been added, and a container escape, all happening in a roughly a few-minute period on the same resource, right? You get this lineage of what's happening, what MITRE attacks are happening. It's really like a high true positive alert. The graph search experience that Abhishek mentioned earlier, this is a really popular feature. Many people are using this on a day-to-day basis. It's very exciting. You know that AI inventory dashboard we showed earlier, right? This global view. That showed agents in Gemini Enterprise and Agent Registry, DIY agents that you've explicitly registered in the registry. But what about those agents that developers are just building, launching in Cloud Runner and GKE, and not registering them in Agent Registry? We call that shadow AI, right? And in the conversations I've had the last few days, there's a lot of worry about this sort of stuff. So what we've done is we're building a prediction system, right? We're taking many signals from the workload, including the packages that we've identified when we've when we've done the agentless scanning for vulnerabilities. We take some of that data. We look at is this workload using GPUs and things like that? What's it called? Is it making network calls coming to it? Do we see network calls that are looking for the agent card? Things like that. And we use that to predict if a workload is an MCP server, an agent, or an inference, right? And that's what you're seeing right here. We're seeing, look, here's a description. We think it's a LangChain agent. And so you can add more to your registry and get more governance. Another really exciting feature is exposure management. What I've learned by talking to people like Mandiant, the consultants who come after breaches happen, is that one of the most common ways that people get breached is by having something exposed to the internet that they weren't aware of, that has a vulnerability that gets exploited. An attacker gets in, and then they do lateral movement and things like that, right? So we're making an investment, and this is in private preview right now. I think it's the fastest, newest feature that we've adopted in terms of customer adoption, which is very exciting. We're proactively scanning your perimeter from the internet, looking for open SSH, RDP, databases, and when we find those things, we identify the services and the protocol, things like that. But in some cases, we actually try to exploit it, with your permission, to try to check if there is a weak password, if there's a known vulnerability on it, and then let you know in this view. We also get these details, if you see in the bottom here, of exactly how that resource is exposed to the internet, which can get very complicated. And we're able to do this because we have a tight integration with GCP. We are GCP, so we get this full visibility. This is Artifact Guard. The idea is that you can create policies to prevent containers from being uploaded into the registry that violate principles, like maybe you don't want critical CVEs or CVEs that are too old. And or in some cases, you say, look, for this container, we're OK with these packages and not these packages. Or we're going to allow this CVE for a certain period of time. You can have exemption, time periods, things like that. There's a lot of flexibility in the policies you can create. The red teaming and the attack path simulation stuff. Over the last year, we've added downloadable risk reports. You can go get these yourself right now if you have SEC Premium enabled. A PDF report that is targeted at like executive audiences, right? But we turn that, or we're turning that into something that's operationalized, right? That your teams, the people in this room who are operators, right, who are practitioners, can actually click and navigate the choke points, the toxic combinations, all the detailed attack paths of how attackers could be getting in your environment. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Abhishek to take us home.
How cool were all of those demos? And it's just great to see all of the work that we've been doing and all of the innovation that we have lined up for customers. And we really hope that with both the standard 2.0 being available for free and the premium trial being a click and available for 30 days, you will actually try out all of those features. What I want to do next is some announcements. I'm not going to go through all of them because we've shipped a whole bunch of things. Some things that I'm going to quickly call out. You saw the Gemini-powered remediation. Our internal evals show that over 80% of your findings can be remediated with high confidence with Gemini. So you should be looking at using that to reduce the toil that comes with remediating findings. Also now in GA, Cloud Run threat detection, and in preview, GKE agentless vulnerability scanning. The other thing that I want to call out, again, external exposure. Nav really showed that screen, but again, such a powerful feature. An outside-in view of your exposure and what can be exploited. That feature was in private preview, but it is actually going preview today. That's available for you to try out. We've also released data security posture management in general availability. AI protection is in GA. In context security across various surfaces is in preview, but for GCE and GKE, it's also going GA. And then finally, Compliance Manager has over 400 controls now built in, Audit Manager built in, and Compliance Manager is GA as well. Graph Search is in preview, and those risk reports that really get the conversation going are now available generally. More importantly, what you should walk away from in this session is that we really want to solve for that security tax. We want to solve for that sentiment related to security theater, and we do that by bringing the developers along, we bring the cloud along, and we make sure agents and our AI deployments start secure and stay secure, and security by design and preemptive security is part of how we think about security. Some related sessions for you to attend. These are all related to SCC, reCAPTCHA, and Model Armor. And then if you're looking for sessions in the identity and access management track, where we shared a whole bunch of information on agent identity, agent access management, agent governance, agent runtime defense, these sessions touch on those topics as well. With that, we are at the end of time. We have 2 minutes, so maybe we can take one live question, and then we'll stick around off stage and in the corridor for any questions that you may have. Yes, sir. Can we get a mic here? We'll just get you a mic. Nav, you want to come up on stage as well?
Thank you. It was a great session, and
thank you.
And I really loved it. I'm just trying to understand, like, if we are having any hybrid cloud management sort of capability from security side. We have multiple clouds with us. We cannot get rid of everything and opt to Google. Do you have any roadmap for that?
I mean, when it comes to multi-cloud monitoring, we have Wiz, and that is a great direction for you to look at. If you have a deployment which is GCP, but then there is also a footprint which is equal proportion. But if you're predominantly GCP, and if you are looking for security out of the box for GCP or AI workloads on GCP, that's the direction that SCC is going to take. We believe that's where we can create the most impact by actually delivering preemptive platform native security. So SCC focuses on GCP and AI running on GCP. If you have a multi-cloud use case, Wiz is a great option for you to consider.
Okay. And one final thing on lifecycle management of agents, correct? So I see it is very, very closely related what we have just seen over here, where we can see obsolete agents going on. We see a lot of dumping ground on agents also nowadays because we are experimenting. Agents are becoming obsolete in nature. We move forward. So is there anything how we can maintain a life cycle of agents?
So I'll say two things.
Go ahead.
I'll say two things. if you were in the IM session yesterday, and if not, I would encourage you to watch the recording. It's BRK 99, BRK 1099. Our view is that there are two life cycles that you need to worry about. One is, of course, the agent's life cycle itself, and then the life cycle associated with the identity or the service accounts and the permissions associated with the agent. So we are standardizing on SPIFFE-based agent identity. They are cryptographically secure, they're unique, they're verifiable trust. They're tied to the life cycle of the workload itself. So it doesn't matter where you deploy your agent in Google Cloud, the identity comes up with the agent and goes away with the agent so that you have a strong binding between the runtime and the identity itself. Beyond that, there is shadow agents that may be running unsanctioned flows and not registered in agent registry. And that's why we are investing so extensively and looking at all the heuristics and signals that help us detect shadow agents so that we can layer governance on them and bring them into lifecycle. The one thing I will say is that as soon as we start making agent identity available for all of your agent runtimes, we announced GA for Agent Engine yesterday and Gemini Enterprise in preview. We strongly encourage you to move off of service accounts for agents. You should only use agent identity for agents. That's the best way to ensure that your agents are compliant and you have governance layered for them. Thank you. We are over time, so we're going to walk off of stage, but feel free to stop by, ask us questions, and maybe meet us in the elevator as well. And then, yes, you can visit us at the demo booths in the security hub on the expo floor. Thank you, Griselda. She's been nudging me to say that.